So how to reprogram yourself for the fast and busy times, with a goal, of course, to boost resilience, impact, engagement within your organization, innovation, and also retention, all hot topics. So my name is Muriel. I'm the mother of 2 boys. I created Key Leader, a company where we help leaders build meaningful impact, meaningful lives and organizations. And we want you to have impact, balance, and meaning. Because when you are in the middle of these 3, that's when you get into this flying wheel of having great results. And impact, usually the people that I help, they have impact, but often they lack either balance or meaning. Well, I can show you how you can even increase your impact with that balance and that meaning. So I'm also an academic director at Solvay Brussels School for 2 programs, Leading Authentically in Digital Times, that will start on September 25th, and Leading Through Empowerment. So this one is really how to reprogram yourself. The second one is then how to redesign your team for more empowerment, specifically in the hybrid times. If at the end you would like to know more or follow me more, I also have a podcast that is called Rebel Leader with a Heart that you can follow on all the platforms, and it's completely free. So I'm also a traveler. I like to travel. Here I was on a yoga retreat in Costa Rica, and I like to party as well. I believe in having fun, that life is not only working, but also having fun. And I used to be the CEO of Plantain, an educational company that I transformed for the digital time. So a lot of things started there for me. And then, of course, I've improved everything that I've been through in the years that followed with all the participants that I've helped so far in my workshops and in my courses. So today, I'm going to share with you how the world has evolved and the impact it has on you and your organization, what the mindset and habits are of fast and busy times, what the barriers are if you want to reprogram yourself. And I see I made a little mistake, which is fine, of course. How can you start? And I'll answer your questions. So if you have questions during the course, don't hesitate to ask them. I see in the Q&A, no questions yet. Okay, yeah. So don't hesitate to ask them. I will answer your questions. So how the world has evolved, probably you've seen this graph already. This graph shows the years for each of these technologies to reach 25% of the US population. And we see that it was really the older technology. We could count it in decades before it hit 100 million users, and still in years for the internet, of course. But here you have the little new technologies that you might know, with ChatGPT being the latest one that I personally really love and use a lot, where it took only 2 months for ChatGPT to reach 100 million users. So what does this say? It says that the pace of change is accelerating, and it's accelerating at a very high speed. And most of what we do was invented in slow times, but today we are in fast times. And for those who have followed me, you will see that even after the pandemic, a lot of things have changed in today's fast times. So, for instance, in slow times, we had fewer opportunities and threats. Tasks were more delimited, we had less requests, limited work times, and jobs were simpler. In fast times, we have way more opportunities and threats. Every new technology, new customer demands, new regulation brings opportunities, but also threats. So when you have one every 30 years, you have a lot of time to adapt to it. But now we are bombarded with these new technologies, and it means that we're constantly facing new opportunities and threats. Our tasks are less delimited. So if you make a brochure today, or in the past, you knew when it started and ended. Today, if you make a website, you can improve it all the time, continuously. And that's for most of our tasks. Just look at your tasks. Probably you can always do better, align more. You have to decide when it's done. So they are less delimited. We get requests from many more channels. Sometimes you get a message and you think, where did I get this message? Was it on Teams, on WhatsApp, on email, in a meeting? I don't remember. And we have this 24/7 connection, especially since the pandemic, where a lot of us work in hybrid mode, which has completely eliminated the structure for many people between work time and private lifetime. And because everything is interconnected, all these technologies are interconnected. If we want to implement something, we often need to align with other people in our organization. And so in the past, we could do that with our own department. Today, you probably have to align with many more departments. And so you spend a lot of time in meetings, and your jobs have become way more complex than in the past. Now, the result of that is that it increases workload. So with a boost in opportunities and threats, you have more work, less delimited tasks, more work, many more requests, of course, more work, the 24/7 connection and the mails that keep coming even during the night or the evening or the early morning, it's more work, and the increased complexity of jobs is also more work. And so this leads to an explosion of the workload worldwide, not only in your organization or in this part of the world, but really everywhere in the world, with the consequence that it has become impossible to deliver everything. And so I'm curious, since before the COVID, how has your workload evolved? You can answer with A, do you have less work? B, the same as before the COVID, a bit more or much more? So you can answer this in the chat or in the Q&A. So yeah, I see here Anne-Thérèse, D, more work. Yeah. So for a lot of us, we have way more work than before. And then on the other hand, we have also been programmed. And we have been programmed like Pavlov programmed his dogs. So we have been programmed, and I don't know if you know Pavlov. Pavlov, every time he gave food to his dogs, he would ring a bell, the dogs would salivate, then they would receive food and they would get their reward. And over time, he noticed that even when he rang the bell, the dogs started salivating, although they didn't receive the food, whether they received it or not. So he noticed that we could condition dogs, and of course, we can condition people also. And so, yep. Yeah. So we have been conditioned. We have been conditioned, and some of you follow me. You've seen that I go every time a little bit deeper in the explanation. But when you deliver every request, when you relax only when work is finished, when you control everything, you don't make any mistakes, when you're rational, strong, you work hard and you manage your time, that's when you're worthy. And that's when you got good grades in school also, but also got promoted at work. On the other hand, if you don't deliver every request, if you dare to relax, well, there is still work. You don't control everything, you make mistakes, you are emotional or weak, you don't work hard, you don't manage your time, you're worthless, and you get punished with bad grades. And so we have been conditioned like this for many, many years at work, but also in school already. So I don't know how old you are, but probably this is decades of conditioning. And the problem is that most of you have unconsciously linked your core identity to delivering, to working hard, to being perfect, being rational, strong, controlling everything. And so it means that when you don't do these things, you feel guilty, you feel worthless, you don't feel professional enough, you have the feeling that you can't handle things. So it's really your conditioning, whether it serves you or not. And so I'm curious, how do you feel when you don't deliver everything, when you don't have control, when you make mistakes, when you take a break while work isn't finished? So please let us know in the chat how you feel when you have the feeling that you're not on top of your work or that you can't respond to everything. And there is probably a little bit delay before I see your answers, but I'm really curious. A lot of people feel guilty, feel not professional. I see Monica feel stressed out, Charlene as well. So yeah, that creates really emotions that are not really who you are. These are only your conditionings that are talking and expressing themselves. And so you find yourself in this catch-22, where on the one hand, we have an explosion of workload that has simply become impossible to deliver. Really, don't try because it's impossible. On the other hand, you feel worthless if you don't deliver everything or if you dare to pause. And so our conditioning that made us feel worthy and that has served us, because in the past, those habits in slower times, they were really useful. And they come from a time also when life was slower, less complex, less volatile. So this is your conditioning. But what happens today, and this is something I noticed as well when I was the managing director of a company in the middle of a transformation, is when you try delivering every request, you risk to feel overwhelmed. It's not possible, so you get work half done, and so your impact is limited. If you relax only when work is finished, well, like I showed, and probably you've experienced it yourself, work is never finished, and most of our to-do list keep adding stuff to it. We risk burning out. We have limited innovation because your creative brain only starts working when your rational brain stops. And when you never stop, you won't be innovative. You start making mistakes if you get tired. And you also have relationship issues. And so worse collaborations because you have become irritable with colleagues, with relatives. So these are the risks if you continue working with these habits in today's times. If you try to control everything, you won't have any focus, because focusing is saying no to a lot of things that might not end well, things that might create chaos, that you have to be okay to let go. But if you can't let go and you constantly try to control everything, it will be impossible for you to focus. So it's very simple. If you don't let go, you can't focus. Then if you try to control everything, there is no room for empowerment, for your team to feel empowered. And you can also unconsciously create a toxic environment if you can't let go and trust people. So, and we all know, or probably maybe you don't know, but research shows that a safe environment is what really leads to high-performing teams. Then if you are perfect, you don't want to make any mistakes, well, you will have a huge lack of agility, because today it's impossible to not make any mistakes because things are moving so fast that it's okay to make mistakes. Not every mistake is okay, but a lot of mistakes, especially the ones that you make because you try new things, are okay. And so if you try to avoid it at all costs, you won't be agile. Also, people that want to be perfect are often very hard on themselves and very hard on their colleagues. And so there again, you won't have as good collaborations and no empowerment again, because when you go to the empowerment phase, people will make mistakes at first, and it's normal because they are learning new things. It's also leading to a fixed mindset where at the end you avoid challenges and you don't grow as a human, but also as an organization. When you're rational and strong, well, it creates, very ironically, the people that are claiming they are the most rational show the most emotional behaviors because they are not connected to their emotions. It's also not inspiring when you're constantly showing up as rational and strong without any flaws. Nobody will follow you. People follow people that have flaws also, and that sometimes just say, you know, guys, I don't know, but it's okay, I don't know, we'll figure things out. It's way more inspiring than if you pretend that you know while you're not. It creates also a fixed mindset to be rational and strong all the time. It creates overthinking, because once you stop feeling and noticing your emotions, that's when you start overthinking and having all these thoughts that are polluting your head. You also don't create connection because we are social beings and we need this emotional connection. And you won't have influential power for the same reasons, because with emotional intelligence comes also the influence that you might have. And then when you work hard all the time, of course, you will exhaust yourself. Your decision-making will be impacted. You won't be as creative. This is all things that research shows. There is no room for transformation or growth, because if you constantly work and don't pause to think, okay, maybe I need to reinvent myself or to reprogram myself, you will have more problems when you work hard and never take the time to analyze root causes, for instance, and you will be less motivated. And then last topic, when you constantly manage your time, well, you can forget your basic needs. And I'm saying this in hybrid times particularly. I know a lot of people think, I'm gonna work from home because then I don't lose time in traffic jam and I can work way more when I'm at home. But we are social beings. And so unconsciously, when we isolate ourselves, when we don't connect with our colleagues, when we don't have these pausing moments, you will slowly start to feel bad, to feel worse, and your impact will also be affected. And you won't have any creativity because you start to plan everything, and creativity is something that where you need to plan moments where you don't do anything. So the results, if you continue with this programmation of slow times, conditioning of slow times, is that people work harder and run more. And that's what we see today. So I'm curious, how is your current work rhythm and maybe also life rhythm? Do you work hard? Do you run a lot? Are you cool, or are you in between all those things? Because it's really ironic. We have never had so many technologies available to help us save time. And at the same time, we have never worked this hard. And so this is ironic. And that is because the standards have changed. You know, if tomorrow we find a tool where you can handle 100 emails in 1 hour, it will become the norm. And we will ask you to handle 200 emails. And so it's not, the solution is not to increase productivity. The solution doesn't lie in other time management tools. The solution lies elsewhere. And of course, I'm going to share it with you. So I see lots of A's and lots of B's, and some people that have learned to pause, which is great. So other consequences besides running more is that your impact will decrease with those habits. You will lose your motivation. You might compensate by drinking, gaming, buying stuff, binge watching. You will exhaust yourself. You won't be present enough for the people you care about. And here I'm talking not only physically, but mentally. Really, it's very important to be present for yourself, for your loved ones. You numb yourself because you want to continue delivering. So you numb yourself, and that's when you start overthinking. you don't take care of yourself enough, sleep, exercising, and you end up spending a lot of time in meetings because you simply let things come to you without taking charge of your own life. And so we see that that it affects engagement at work, which is very low. Can you imagine that in Europe, only 21% of the employees are engaged? That means that 79% are disengaged or not really engaged. And only 1/3 of employees are thriving. And I find it also very ironic because sometimes I meet HR managers or CEOs or leaders that say, but we do so many for our people in terms of well-being, and still well-being keeps decreasing. And for me, it's because also we can't separate well-being from impact, because we want to have an impact. And so it's not because you get massages at work and fruit and meditation. Of course, I'm a big fan of those things, but it's not enough. For me, the key lies in reprogramming yourself. And so the results of the fact that you are still programmed for these slow times and with habits that don't serve you anymore in fast times also is that organizations then don't adapt fast enough. And so we are now in this moment, I believe, where we've come at the end of a model that used to work but doesn't work anymore, and at the beginning of a new model. And that's also the great news. So out of all these bad statistics, or out of these burnouts that we see, people not feeling great, often that is something that we need to adapt. We are human beings. We've always adapted because we were facing difficult situations. And this is one, again, where we need to adapt as human beings and as organizations. So what is then the mindset and the habits of the fast and busy times if you want to have impact, meaning, and balance? So how will you have to reprogram yourself? And this is something I discovered when I became the CEO of my organization, and where I really noticed that I had to reprogram myself. The way I was, the way I had been educated wasn't serving me anymore, because I really came at a verge of burning out myself. I wasn't as happy anymore. I was tired. Something that I hear a lot. A lot of people are saying, yeah, it's nice in my organization, but I noticed people are fatigued. People are really tired now, which was something I saw for me and then for the people in my organization. And I thought, okay, this isn't working anymore. I have to reprogram myself. And so how do you reprogram yourself? Well, it's not about delivering every request or not delivering every request anymore. What you need to do now is focus by saying no more. That's the only possibility you have in today's time. We have to learn to focus, and focus is not just handling priorities and looking at what am I going to do now and next. It's about saying no more. And it's, again, something that we haven't learned. A lot of us feel worthless, not professional, have the feeling that they can't handle things if they dare say no to an opportunity, a threat to their boss or customer. But it's the only answer if you want to become successful. And you will see, if you follow the great leaders like Warren Buffett, Elon Musk, you will see that they focus a lot. Really, they say more, they say no way more than average leaders. Then it's not about only relaxing when work is finished, or it's about, and here I'm gonna let Bill Gates and Warren Buffett share what you need to do instead of working hard and never relaxing.
I also remember Warren showing me his calendar, and
I love this.
you know, I had every minute packed, and I thought that was the only way you could do things. And you know, the fact that he is so careful about.
Can I show this to the audience? Yeah, this.
You know, he has days
that there's nothing on.
That there's nothing on.
Absolutely. I'm trying to show
the best.
And
well, this is October.
it's very high tech. Be careful. You might not understand.
I'm not going to show the thing, but this is the week of April, of which there are only 3 entries for a week.
Yeah, there'll be 4 maybe by April.
File packs.
So that taught you what? To not to crowd yourself too much and give yourself time to read and think and
right. That you control your time, and that sitting and thinking may be a much higher priority than a normal CEO who, you know, there's all this demand and you feel like you need to go and see all these people. It's not a proxy of your seriousness that you filled every minute in your schedule.
And people are going to want your time.
Yeah,
and it's the only thing you can't buy. I mean, I buy anything I want, basically, but I can't buy time.
And so to have time is the most precious thing you can have.
I better be careful with it. Yeah. There's no way I will be able to buy more time.
Yeah, and I get a question here from Leticia. Have you women models? And of course there is Ariana Huffington. There is Mulcahy, I think she's called, from Xerox. There are a lot of women leaders as well that show this example. So it's not only men. But unfortunately, we still have more men leaders in our current society than women leaders. So it's not about not relaxing or relaxing. It's about pausing regularly. And why do you pause? And this is something that you have to reprogram yourself. You pause not because you're lazy. You pause because you want to have more impact. And every research, there is a lot of research out there that shows to you that pausing will, in the end, lead to more impact. Regularly pausing. Of course, if you pause all the time, it won't work neither. But the problem today is that many of you don't pause enough. You work. And constantly. And it means pausing, even if it means that on the short term, people will get mad, things will fall down. You have to get out of this circle. So instead of controlling everything or don't controlling everything is about learning to trust and let go. So of course, sometimes we need to control things, but when we decide, okay, this I'm not going to do, or this I'm going to let my team do, that is when you need to trust and let go. And then, of course, if something goes wrong there, you can pause again to analyze things, and then you can come up with another thing and you control again. So that's very important. It's about trusting, letting go, and controlling, but not everything. You focus, and that's where you focus, you control. What you don't focus on, you let go. Then it's not about being perfect or making mistakes. It's about growing from your mistakes. And of course, when you learn new things, when you try new things, you will make mistakes, because the time where we could figure everything out of a plan before starting the implementation, those times are gone. Because by the time you have figured everything out, things have changed, new technologies, new demands, there are changes that makes your plan obsolete. So we have to move forward while making mistakes. So we have to reprogram ourselves and knowing that, okay, I'll grow from these mistakes. I feel bad, I made a mistake, but it's okay. I take a deep breath, I learn from it, and I continue. Then it's not about being rational or strong or emotional and weak. It's about building this emotional intelligence and showing our vulnerability more. So being strong, it's in fact, you are way stronger when you are connected to your emotions. That shows a very strong leader. When you have the courage to move forward despite your fears, when you show your vulnerability, that is when people will follow you. That is very important to create that safe environment. Then it's not about working hard anymore, but working smart. So, and working smart means also, of course, pausing regularly to analyze things. Maybe you can automate something. Maybe you can improve a process, and not only working, because that will not lead to the results that you want. And then it's not about managing time anymore, but really managing the needs. So what gives you energy? What are your unconscious fears? Noticing also what are the needs of my colleagues. And it's very important to manage those needs before the time, because when people feel bad, that's also when bad results will follow. Because when you feel bad, your thoughts are more negative, and those negative thoughts leads to more negative actions and to worse results. So that is the reprogramming we need to do. And it's not easy, of course, because like I said, you have a decade of the wrong kind of programming that's not helpful anymore. But once you do that, you get into this effortless work instead of the hard work you're probably in that leads to little impact. And yeah, I think that this illustrates it very well. These are working really hard and they're saying, I don't have time, we're too busy, please don't bother us, while he came up with a smart solution that would lead to more effortless work. And so if we want to summarize the habits, so the habits of slow times was delivering everything, being action-oriented, managing your time, being ego-driven and rational, and working hard. But if you continue with those habits today, it will lead to hard work for little impact. Or it will lead to, yeah, you might still have an impact, but at a very high cost for yourself. The habits of fast times are focusing. So saying no, it's acting with purpose, knowing what you want individually, as a team, as an organization, regularly thinking about what do we want? Why do we want that? Managing energy and fears, so our needs first. Being mindset driven and conscious of our emotions, conscious of our thoughts, instead of rational only. And so also developing this emotional intelligence, and instead of working hard, regularly pausing and slowing down. And that leads to this effortless work with a bigger impact. So that's what I implemented. And so I learned, of course, to pause and slow down, which was necessary to then reprogram myself with these habits that I just showed you. That's when I got myself into slowly effortless work with big impact. That's when my leadership team started to change, the whole organization and culture started to shift, because the best way to change others is to change yourself first. And if you're a leader in an organization, you reprogramming yourself is even more important than if you're lower in the organization. It's still very important to reprogram yourself, so don't take it as an excuse. No, I won't reprogram myself because my leaders are still working in a very traditional way. That will only make you more unhappy, with less meaning and also less impact. But the higher you are, the more crucial it is, because you have an example to play. Then we could implement new business techniques like working agile, empowerment, all these things. We became performant and agile. And that's what led to great results, not only in terms of profit and revenues, but also 50% less absenteeism, working less, more engagement within the organization, and no burnouts anymore. So, which habits is for you the hardest to adopt? Is it the regularly pausing and slow down? Is it being conscious of your mindset, of your emotions, of your thoughts that influence your actions? Is it to manage your energy, to be conscious of your fears that are often unconscious? Is it acting with purpose, or is it focusing and saying no? So which are the habits that you find difficult? So Anne-Thérèse says focusing. Yeah. And the thing is, yeah, focusing. And the thing is this is almost a pyramid, because if you want to focus, you have to know what you want to focus on. So you have to be purposeful. And because focusing is so against our conditioning, because we haven't learned to say no, we have learned to deliver everything, you have to have high energy to be able to do that. To have high energy, you have to be conscious that maybe in that moment you were about to say yes, or you were not feeling great enough, you didn't have the courage in that moment to say no. And you have to regularly pause and slow down to really work on all these things. So I see that focusing and pausing and saying no are the biggest thing. That's also what we see in our assessment, and we will give you the link also. But once you start doing that, you will feel better. Your impact will increase, your balance will be better, so you feel better. The organization wins because these habits will make you way more flexible and agile, so that allows you to adapt faster to all the changes. And then, and this is, for instance, an example at Nestlé. So at Nestlé, we did a program to reprogram. So we reprogrammed the employees of Nestlé, and we started with the leaders, but then we decided to do all the employees. And we really saw a boost in well-being at Nestlé, despite being in COVID, because we did this in COVID and well-being kept increasing. And now they have decided to also do that at Nestlé Netherlands. And so you win, your organization wins, and at the end, our planet wins as well. Because once you start changing, once you start to be more aware of your values, aware of what you care about, feeling better, you will make better decisions, not only for you, for your organization, but also more in line with your values. And so it leads to also a more sustainable impact for our planet. And I call it the magic 25%, because once we reach the 25%, that's a tipping point. So if we reach 25% of the people changing in an organization, we get a tipping point within that organization. Once we reach 25% of organizations that are functioning that way, we will reach another tipping point that will benefit our planet. So I hope you want to be part of those 25% and really reprogram yourself. Now, there are barriers that will prevent you from applying these principles and from reprogramming yourself. The first one, and that's the excuse that I hear the most often, is, I can't slow down because I have too much work to do. Yeah, we'll do that later. Now we're way too busy to do that. And there, everything shows that research shows that it's because you can't slow down that you have way too much work to do. Because if you don't reprogram yourself with these new habits, work will only keep exploding. And so this is, for instance, Anne she works in a large multinational association, transport association. She started playing with these principles, and in particular slowing down and focusing more on saying no more. And that's what I see you need the most. She started playing with those principles, and she said, pretty much everything you said happened to me. I started not only to feel better, but my impact increased. So just play with those principles. Don't say to yourself, I should do this, I should do this, that. Stop shooting yourself. Start playing with it and trying it. The best way to get there is to experience things. And so it's really about transforming yourself, learning to adopt these new habits and reprogramming yourself. And what I also see is, when should you slow down and when should you accelerate? Because it's difficult, of course, to slow down, but it's like when you're behind a car. You accelerate when the road is clear and the car is in optimal condition. but you slow down when the road is foggy, when the road is curvy, when the car needs fuel or maintenance. That's your guiding rule. So if you feel you need to reprogram yourself, don't wait. Do that now, because otherwise you won't get there. Now, the second barrier is I don't believe that it can work for me. And there, I don't know if you know the self-fulfilling prophecy, it's again the contrary. It won't work because you don't believe. And when you don't believe, you're not going to try. That's why every time I feel a bit down, because it's not easy to keep believing in things, especially when you're tired. That's why I like watching this very inspiring video about beliefs and the power of beliefs. So that's very inspiring to keep believing and keep
Before
trying.
April 1954, the common belief, the universal belief, because it had been tried again and again and again, and people had failed, the belief was that man was not physically capable of breaking the 4-minute barrier, that he could not run a mile in less than 4 minutes. When something happens to them, they begin to believe that that's the way it is. That's the way it's always been. And they can't see the possibility of it being any different.
150 yards to go, and Bannister takes over. Watch his giant stride, taking to the front as he races the last lung-bursting.
Roger Bannister came along, and he broke the 4-minute barrier. Since that time, up to this day, over 20,000 people have done it, including high school kids. 20,000 people. What changed? Here's what happened when they got on the track. They knew it had been done. Because they knew it had been done, there was a new belief about this barrier that was unreachable. And those 20,000 people got in a race believing, knowing in their hearts that it's possible. The thing to do. If someone can make their dream become a reality, then you can make your dream become reality.
So believe it is possible, because trust me, it is possible. I've applied it and we've accompanied already many people in this reprogramming, and they see the benefits. So the summary, so we live now in fast times. In these fast times, we see an explosion of workloads that has become impossible to deliver. But on one hand, we have been programmed in a way that is not serving us anymore. And with that programming, it leads to us working harder or running faster or all the time. So to reprogram ourselves, we need to adopt the habits of fast times and really reprogram ourselves. And that's when we will feel better, organizations will feel better, and our planet wins. Okay, so then what will happen if you don't reprogram yourself? If you don't reprogram yourself, you risk even more work and stress. You risk a decrease in impact, and maybe you can feel it already a little bit. Not being agile enough as a team, maybe, and maybe you do it well already, but the members of your team aren't. You can unconsciously create a toxic environment because you try to be perfect, to control everything, to not be in touch with your emotions. You get less engagement and less empowerment, and this is a trend we see overall in organizations where engagement decreases. You get less creative and innovative, of course, because when you work hard all the time, you don't get that creative spark. A lot of resistance to change, because when we are tired, when we're fatigued, that's when we don't see a possibility anymore, when we will resist the changes. And that's when you also get or stay in this fixed mindset and so limited growth, because unfortunately our educational system leads to fixed mindsets, leads to bad habits, habits that don't serve us anymore in fast times, but also to this fixed mindset. So it's very important to reprogram yourself and to invest in yourself. And that is something that I believe we don't do enough anymore. We invest in clothes, we invest in holidays, in nice things for our house, in cars, but we don't truly invest in ourselves anymore. And that investment in yourself includes spending time for yourself, because at the end, you only have time. That's the only real value that you have. It's time. So take the time to really reprogram yourself, because you can have it all. And I know a lot of people have sometimes the feeling, because they have so much at work and they don't like their life anymore, or they think this is not sustainable anymore for the long term. So I have to choose between having a career and work or having a life. But you don't have to choose. These are not the choices that you have to make. You can have a great life, a great family, a great balance, while having also a great career. But again, it's about reprogramming yourself. It's about making other choices, but not the choice between having a life or having a career. So in this presentation, I've showed you mainly the why you need to transform, the what the habits are. And maybe if this resonates with you, I'd like to share you the how you can reprogram yourself, because of course this is a webinar of 1 hour. I can't help you transform in 1 hour, unfortunately. If I could, I would do it. So how? Well, we can accompany you and your organization in this transformation. That's really our specialty. We help leaders and team members reprogram themselves and to change the culture of organizations. And for that, it's first about reprogramming yourself, and every team member should reprogram themselves. And then once we are reprogrammed, we can redesign our team. And that's what we specialize in. So we do this individually. You can follow an individual transformation with us. We do it, of course, in company, and we can also organize keynotes if you think, oh, this is inspiring, I would like to have this within my organization. So our programs are very much pretty different from other programs, and they get people out of their comfort zone, because the programs are designed to reprogram busy people, not to give knowledge. Because probably a lot of what I taught here resonated with you. You know this already, but it's not about knowing, it's about becoming it. And that's what our programs focus on, really reprogramming busy people. And that doesn't happen, unfortunately, in one workshop or in one keynote. This needs time. So it's a mix of inspiration moments like this, sharing moments, coaching moments, but then online micro content that we deliver over a longer period that is really designed to transform you, because changing habits takes time. So it's not possible to simply say there is no quick fix. I can't tell you just do this and it will be okay. There is a process to reprogram yourself. It's a combination of deep moments that are very important. It's important to go deep, to really get this, to reach this level where you want to create that shift. But then it's also important to have fun and to have more lightness. So we mix the fun and deep moments in our programs. Then we focus on transforming on the level of being. So it's really creating that shift inside, deep inside each and every one of the people, and not simply say to you what you need to do or give you more knowledge. And therefore we use the latest neuroscience, because it's about creating new habits, creating new connections in your brain. So we use the latest neuroscience, and we work a lot also with emotional intelligence to get there. So if you want to join our program, it's called Leading Authentically in Digital Times, and the next edition starts on September 25th, and we still have 2 spots left. Just if you want to know how a transformation path looks like, we start with a kickoff of half a day at Solvay Brussels School. And then you start getting access to this micro content. And in between those micro content, we have sharing and coaching moments. And then we see each other again together at Solvay Brussels School. We continue the micro content self-paced that you can do either through videos, but you can also do it with a podcast while walking around or exercising. But it's designed to transform you. And then we have a closing session of half a day at Solvay Brussels School. So some testimonials, people say really it changed not only your work, it changes your life because we go deep. Some people say I should have learned this, and that's also what I experienced. I thought I should have learned this way sooner in my career, not now. It allows you to change fundamentally and have more impact while using less energy. And a lot of people consider this course a gift. So it's also a pausing moment, but a pausing moment that will really be an investment in yourself to reprogram yourself. Here are some of our customers. We work mainly with large organizations, but sometimes we also work with smaller ones. And this program is not for everyone because we have to have this awareness that we can't continue like this, that culture, mindset, and leadership needs to fundamentally change. We have to be willing to transform ourselves as leaders. It's not just, yeah, give this to my team. I don't need to transform. To go deep in the neuroscience, like emotions, somatics, understanding what's happening, the sensations in your body also that will trigger unproductive behaviors. To be ready to let go of control and trust people, to be open to counterintuitive techniques, and to put your ego and status aside so that we can really create a new model. So this is a testimonial from the HR director from Nestlé. And now I'm at the end of my presentation, and I would say it's your choice now. You can decide to continue like this. And of course, if your life today is great, then you have to continue like it is. So you only start transforming yourself and reprogramming yourself if you start feeling that this is not sustainable, or that maybe there is something else for you out there. So if you choose to take the red pill, we would of course be very happy to see you in the course. And if not, we are very happy as well. And we hope that this webinar has already inspired you. So yeah, the link is in the chat if you want to know more about that course. And of course, if you want a keynote or an in-company program, don't hesitate to contact us. But that was it for today for me. And now I'm gonna answer your questions if you have some questions. So I really hope that this inspired you to start seeing your life differently, because it doesn't have to be this way. And in fact, I think that one of the problems why so many people don't feel great, why the Gen Z are not happy in our organizations, it's because we are doing things that bring us way too far from our human nature. So we are social beings. We have a way of working that is very efficient, but we have been reprogramming ourselves inefficiently. So yeah, it's time to really work differently, to be more aware of what's happening inside of us, our thoughts, our emotions, to slow down, to pause regularly. And you will see that it will even bring bigger results than before. So if you don't have any question, that's fine as well, of course. I thank you because you choose to be here, to sacrifice your lunchtime to listen to this. So I'm very thankful for that. That's great. It means that you're already serious about your transformation, or that you might already feel something. So thank you very much. And I'll see you in the next webinar, or maybe I'll see you in the course. Yeah, and Charlene, yes, you are in the training. Great for that. I will be happy to meet you live. So thank you, and have a great weekend. Enjoy the sun if you're in Brussels.